stop scrolling past your empty patio. If you've got a deck, a balcony, a porch, or even just 3 square feet next to your back door, what you're about to hear is going to change the way you look at that space completely. And the timing actually matters right now, because several of the plants on this list need to go in before peak summer heat locks in. Because here's the mistake almost everyone makes. They think a real garden needs a yard, soil in the ground, raised beds, acreage. So the patio sits there, half decorated, maybe one sad pot of something that died in July, while the actual potential of that space goes completely untouched. Here's what nobody tells you. Some of the most stunning, professional-looking container gardens in the country aren't growing in backyards at all. They're growing in pots, on concrete, against a railing, in full sun, or in shade. So deep most plants would give up. The trick isn't more space. It's choosing the right 10 plants. And one of them, the one we're ending on, is something most home gardeners have never even heard of, but professional horticulturists plant it specifically because it does something almost no other plant can do in winter when everything else in your container is dead and brown. 10 plants. Every growing condition covered. Sun, shade, spiller, structure, and color that lasts from spring straight through the first frost. Let's get into it. Number 1, tall verbena. Most people fill a container with the same 3 or 4 predictable shapes. Something low, something round, something at the back, and the whole thing ends up looking flat, stiff, like it was arranged with a ruler. Tall verbena fixes that without you having to do anything clever. It grows on long, wiry, almost see-through stems that shoot up 3 to 6 feet and poke through everything else in the pot, topped with small clusters of purple blooms that seem to float above the rest of your plants. Horticulturists at places like Longwood Gardens use it specifically for that wispy, airy movement, the thing that makes a container garden look designed instead of just planted. It blooms from summer all the way through fall, and because it sits up high and catches the breeze, butterflies and bees find it from a distance. One thing worth knowing, tall verbena tolerates almost any soil you throw at it. Clay, sand, loam, it does not care. It's rated for zones 7 through 11, which covers most of the southern half of the country and the milder coastal regions further north. Plant it toward the back or middle of a large container, and let it lean and drift through your other plants. That's where the magic actually happens. Number 2, giant hyssop, also known as agastache. Most people stick to 1 or 2 flower colors per container because they're worried about clashing and end up with something that looks safe instead of stunning. Giant hyssop solves that. It comes in such a wide range of bloom colors and flower shapes between cultivars that you can match it to almost any color scheme you're working with: pink, orange, purple, blue. It's intensely aromatic too. Crush a leaf between your fingers and you get a sharp, sweet, almost minty licorice scent that fills the air around your seating area. That fragrance is doing double duty. Pollinators are drawn to it from across the yard, but humans love sitting near it too. It grows 2 to 3 feet tall, prefers full sun, and wants soil that stays moist but drains well. It does not like sitting in standing water. Here's something most articles leave out. In zones 4 through 10, giant hyssop can come back as a perennial year after year if you give it winter protection in a container, which matters because pots freeze faster and harder than ground soil does. Move the container against a sheltered wall for winter or wrap the pot in burlap, and you can get multiple seasons out of a single plant instead of starting over every spring. Number 3, coral bells, or heuchera. This is a plant for the part of your patio that gets almost no direct sun at all. The spot under an overhang, beside a fence, in the shadow of your house for most of the day. Most flowering plants give up entirely in those conditions. Coral bells doesn't need to flower to earn its place. The foliage alone, in colors ranging from deep purple to lime green to amber and silver vein patterns, does more visual work than most flowering annuals manage. And there's a cultivar suited to literally any light condition. Full sun straight through to full shade. So you genuinely cannot get this one wrong. It does send up thin flower stalks that rise above the foliage, delicate enough to use in cut arrangements, and pollinators do visit them. But the real reason designers reach for heuchera is that it's semi-evergreen. In milder climates, it holds color through winter, when almost everything else in your container has gone bare. Zones 4 through 9, rich in consistently moist soil. If your container garden has a shady, neglected corner right now, this is the plant that turns it into the best-looking spot on the patio. Number 4, and 10 celosia. If your patio gets blasting, unforgiving afternoon sun, the kind that fries delicate flowers by July, celosia spicata is built for exactly that. It grows upright and compact, which means it holds its shape in a pot without flopping over the edges, and it produces long, spiky, almost feathery purple flower plumes that look more like something from a florist shop than a garden center six-pack. Because the growth habit is so tight and full, a single plant can carry an entire small container on its own, no filler needed. It's rated for zones 10 and 11, so if you're in a warmer climate, this is one of your most reliable full sun performers. And even outside that zone range, it works beautifully as a striking summer annual anywhere. It wants consistently moist soil, so in peak summer heat, check it daily. Containers dry out far faster than garden beds because there's less soil volume holding water. Now, a quick favor before we move to number 5. If a particular plant on this list is calling out to you for your own patio, drop the number in the comments. We're reading every single one, and it helps the next person scrolling through figure out exactly what's going to work for their space. Number 5, butterfly bush. This is your structure plant, the one that gives a container actual height, weight, and presence instead of just color. Butylja davidii is a deciduous shrub, meaning it has real woody stems, and come summer produces long, arching flower spikes that practically vibrate with butterfly and hummingbird activity, hence the name. The hot raspberry variety in particular pairs bold pink blooms with soft gray-green foliage, and critically for container growing, it has a more compact growth habit than older butterfly bush varieties, which historically got far too large and leggy for pots. It needs full sun and rich, well-draining soil, and it's hardy in zones 5 through 9. Here's a tip most people don't know. Butterfly bush blooms on new wood, meaning the flowers come from growth that happens this season, not last season. So in late winter or very early spring, before new growth starts, cut it back hard by 1/3 to 1/2. That hard pruning is exactly what produces the fullest, most flower-heavy growth come summer. Skip that step, and you'll get a leggier plant with noticeably fewer blooms. Number 6. Silver Falls Dichandra. Most container gardens look finished at the top and dead at the rim. Nothing softens a hard plastic or ceramic edge, and the whole pot ends up looking unfinished no matter what you plant in the middle. That's exactly what a spiller fixes. And Silver Falls Dichandra might be the single best one available. The foliage is a shimmering, almost metallic silver, and it pours over the rim of a container or hanging basket in long, trailing strands that can reach 4 feet wide while staying just a few inches tall. It's also remarkably low maintenance. This is not a thirsty, high-fuss plant. It actually prefers average to dry soil and wants infrequent watering, which makes it forgiving if you travel or simply forget a day here and there. Zones 8 through 10, full sun to part shade. Pair it with something upright and colorful in the center of the pot, like celosia or coleus, and the silver trailing foliage acts almost like a frame, making whatever's at the center of your container pop even harder. Number 7, magic purple aster. Most container gardens peak in June and July, and then quietly fade through August and September, while everyone's attention is on back to school and the changing season. Magic purple aster is the plant that solves that gap. It produces an absolute flood of deep lavender purple blooms with bright yellow centers, and it's specifically valued for fall container displays, when most other flowering plants have already finished. There's one technique that makes a real difference here. Once during the summer, prune the top 6 to 8 inches off the plant. That feels counterintuitive. You're cutting back a plant that hasn't even bloomed yet, but that pruning forces a plant to branch out instead of growing tall and thin, and that branching is what produces a dense, full flower display you actually want in autumn. Skip the pruning and you'll get a taller, sparser plant with fewer blooms, exactly when you want the most color. It's compact, 20 inches tall and 2 feet wide, full sun, and rated for zone 3, meaning it handles cold better than almost anything else on this list. Number 8, Goldilocks Creeping Jenny. If you've killed plant before and you're nervous about trying again, start here. Lysomachia nummularia Goldilocks is, in the words of professional growers, virtually indestructible. The foliage is a bright, almost luminous golden yellow, and it produces small yellow flowers throughout summer. But the real value is in the foliage color itself. It glows in a container even from a distance. It's another excellent spiller, low growing with a wide spread, perfect for the edge of a pot or a hanging basket. And here's what sets it apart from Silverfall Dechandra. It tolerates everything from full sun to full shade, which makes it one of the most flexible plants on this entire list. If you're not sure how much light a particular spot on your patio actually gets through the day, this is a safe bet. Zones 4 through 9 average to moist soil. Number 9, dwarf hinoki cypress. Here's something almost nobody talks about when it comes to container gardening. What does your patio look like in January? Most container plantings are summer projects, beautiful for 4 months, and then completely abandoned, bare soil, and empty pots through winter. Dwarf hinoki cypress is the antidote to that. Chamaecyparis obtusa, Nana gracilis, is an evergreen conifer with fan-shaped foliage that shifts through different shades of green from the center of the plant to the edges, giving it texture and depth that most evergreens lack. It provides real structural presence in a container year-round, not just during growing season. And because it grows incredibly slowly, you can keep the same plant in a relatively small pot for years before it ever needs to be sized up. Full sun, well-draining soil, zones 4 through 9. If you want a container garden that still looks intentional and alive when there's snow on the ground, this is a plant that makes that possible. And number 10, the one I promised at the start, Coleus. Here's the thing about Coleus that changes how people think about container gardening entirely. It doesn't need a single flower to be the most eye-catching plant on your patio. The foliage does all the work. The burgundy wedding train variety, for example, holds small, deeply lobed leaves in a rich brick red with sharp, distinctive lime green edges. And it holds that color consistently for the entire growing season, not just a brief peak window like most flowering plants. Coleus thrives in part shade to full shade, which makes it one of the very few plants on this list, alongside coral bells, that genuinely performs in low light, and it pairs with absolutely everything, as a standalone statement plant in its own pot, or threaded through a mixed container where it provides color that never quits, rain or shine, bloom or no bloom. Moist soil, zone 10 is listed, though gardeners further north grow it successfully as a summer annual in containers everywhere. If there's one plant on this list to start with if you've never grown anything in a pot before, this is genuinely one of the easiest, most forgiving plants you can pick, and by late summer, when most annuals around have peaked and started to fade, your Coleus pot will still look like it was planted yesterday. So that's 10 plants. 10 different problems on your patio solved. Sun that fries everything, shade that kills everything, color that fades by August, and a pot that still looks alive in January when everything else has gone bare. One quick general tip before you go shopping. Container plants dry out faster than anything in the ground because there's simply less soil holding moisture. So check pots daily in peak summer heat, and always make sure whatever container you choose has real drainage holes. Standing water at the bottom of a pot kills more container plants than almost anything else combined. Now tell me, which one of these 10 is going first into your patio this season? Drop it in the comments below. And if you know your growing zone, add that too. It genuinely helps everyone else reading through these comments figure out what's actually going to thrive in their own backyard. If this saved you a trip to the garden center, wandering around guessing, subscribe. There's a lot more like this coming.